I want to start today by asking you to visualize a very, very specific moment in time. If you can, just close your eyes for a second. It is exactly 9:15 a.m.
9:15. That is such a deliberate choice of time, isn't it? It's not the clean slate of 9:00 a.m.
Yeah.
And it's not the just getting settled phase. At 9:05, the machine is already humming. It's already running.
Exactly. You are right in the thick of it. And I want you to picture the environment. Maybe you're at a desk in some high-rise, or maybe you're just at your dining table at home with a laptop open. But the sensory details are, I think, universal. You can hear that soft, sort of rhythmic clicking of a keyboard nearby. Someone else is already typing, maybe a little faster than you are.
The phantom competitor.
Yes. And there's a phone ringing in the background, just that low digital burble that never really seems to stop in an office. And of course, the most crucial detail of all, you can smell the coffee.
The universal fuel, the lifeblood of the modern knowledge economy.
It really is.
Yeah.
But then, just as you're taking that first sip, the calm just breaks. A notification slides onto your screen. It's an email. You see the sender? It's the boss.
The heart rate spikes a little bit.
Just a little. Then a colleague walks by, drops a good morning, that, it requires a response. It pulls you out of your focus.
An interruption, a social debt you have to pay immediately.
Right. And you glance at the clock, and that's when it hits you. You have a presentation at 11:00 a.m. You have that big report due by 5:00 p.m. The pressure isn't just this abstract thing anymore. It's like physical. It's mounting in your chest.
That is such a visceral scene. It's the modern fight or flight response, but you can't really run because, you've got a career to build.
And you can't fight because, well, it's just an email.
It's just an email, but it feels like a predator.
Exactly. And right in the middle of this rising tension, someone leans over, or maybe it's a message on Slack, and they ask you the one question that just strikes fear into the heart of every single employee.
I know this question.
Did you finish the slides?
And the stomach just drops. That specific anxiety of being found out or, just falling behind even by a minute.
And you, in a sort of hurried panic, you reply with the standard script. We all know it. Almost. Just one more chart.
And it is a script, isn't it? It's a universal line. We have all said it. I've said it when I haven't even opened the file for the chart.
We absolutely have. But today, on the deep dive, we aren't just looking at this scene as, an example of workplace anxiety. We're analyzing it as a distinct linguistic landscape. We are unpacking the source material that's labeled Day 26, Mastering Professional Office English and Workplace Communication.
This feels like a really significant pivot point. I mean, based on the material we've been looking at over the last few weeks, this is a major shift in focus.
It's a massive shift. So let's just set the context for everyone. We're looking at a language learning journey. The whole premise here is that the learner has spent the last 3.5 weeks, that's 25 full days, learning the basics of English.
Right. And if you look at the trajectory, if you look at what they've covered so far, it's been what I would call the domestic and personal sphere. It's been greetings, talking about your family, describing the weather.
Right, shopping for groceries, a visit to the doctor.
Exactly. It's the language of survival and, the language of the home. It's comfortable.
The apple is red and I have a headache. It's fundamental stuff.
It's essential, but it's private. It's your personal life. Day 26, though, this is where the learner has to put on the suit. Metaphorically, at least.
I like that.
We are moving from the safety and the comfort of the home into the high-stakes arena of the office. And the mission, as it's stated in the source text, is actually quite profound. It doesn't just say, learn to work. It says the goal is to make the learner feel like, I belong here.
I belong here. Wow, that's a heavy phrase for what looks on the surface like a simple vocabulary lesson.
But it's the ultimate goal of fluency, isn't it? I mean, think about the psychology of the workplace. Imposter syndrome is bad enough in your native language. You're sitting in a meeting, you're wondering, am I smart enough to be here?
Oh, absolutely.
Now imagine doing that job in a second language. You could be a brilliant coder, a genius accountant, a strategic mastermind, but if you don't know the specific kind of ritualistic phrases for I'm running a bit late or let's touch base next week, you feel like an outsider.
You feel like you're faking it.
You feel like a child at the grown-ups table. Your professional competence is completely masked by your linguistic insecurity.
That distinction you just made between skill and language is so important. You can have all the skill in the world, but without the language, you can't display the skill.
Precisely. The language is the interface. It's the user interface for your brain. And if that interface is clunky or broken, the user, your boss, your colleague, your client, they can't access your value. They can't see how good you actually are.
So to help us navigate this big transition from the home to the office, the Source Imperial introduces us to two guides. We have Jays and Isha.
Right. And I really appreciate that the text differentiates their roles because you need different kinds of support when you're learning something this stressful. Jays, he seems to be the morale officer.
The cheerleader.
Yes, exactly. He's described as having that colleague over coffee vibe. He's the one saying, you can do this, it's okay, don't panic.
And what about Isha?
Isha is the technician. She is the structure. She's the one who says, okay, the vibe is great, Jays, but here's the actual grammar they need so they don't get fired.
Laughs.
She focuses on the tactical how-to, and you need both, right? You need the encouragement to even start, but you also need the technical skill to actually execute.
It's interesting. I noticed that Jays starts off day 26 with the pretty aggressive command. It's in all caps in the text. It just reads, stop scrolling.
It's a pattern interrupt, isn't it? He's essentially shouting. He's trying to grab your attention because the environment he's describing, that 9:45 a.m. scenario we just visualized, it requires a completely different level of cognitive load than, say, ordering a coffee.
For sure.
You can't be passive in the office. You can't just let the language wash over you like you might with a song or a movie. You have to be on. You have to be active.
He also points out something that I think is easy to gloss over, but it feels crucial for the learner's mindset at this point. He says, if you're here, if you're reading day 26, it means you have shown up consistently for more than 3.5 weeks.
Which, statistically speaking, is the drop-off cliff. That's huge. Most new habits die around day 10 or maybe 2 weeks. We see this with everything: gym memberships, diet plans, language apps.
Right. New Year's resolutions.
Exactly. So if you've made it to day 26, you've already proven something to yourself. You have momentum. The source even lists what they've already built: a foundation of time, verbs, routines, emotions. Now, the challenge is to leverage that foundation, that home language, and to kind of weaponize it for the boardroom.
Weaponize it. I like that. It feels like we are gearing up for battle.
Well, the modern workplace is a battlefield of sorts. It's a battlefield of ideas, of influence, of deadlines.
Okay, so let's look at the geography of this battlefield then. Where exactly are we supposed to be? The text throws out some very specific locations. It mentions working in IT in Chandigarh, a bank in Ceylon, a startup in Shimla, or a government office.
I noted that too. And on one level, it grounds the lesson in a specific Indian context, which is clearly the target demographic for this particular source material. But here's the fascinating insight, I think. The location is geographically specific, but linguistically, it's almost irrelevant.
What do you mean by that? I mean, a bank in Solon feels culturally very different from a startup in Berlin or an ad agency in New York.
Culturally, absolutely, yes. The snacks in the break room are different. The public holidays are different. The social etiquette might vary. But linguistically, the protocol of work is a standardized global phenomenon.
The protocol of work.
Yeah, it's almost like air traffic control. A pilot in Tokyo speaks the exact same technical English as a pilot in New York because ambiguity is dangerous. It could lead to a crash.
Okay, I see that.
Well, in the office, it's a lower stakes version of the same principle. A deadline is a deadline, whether you're in Shimla or San Francisco. A quarterly report means the same thing. This professional protocol, it kind of overrides the local geography.
That's a really comforting thought, actually. It means if you can master this protocol of work, you become professionally mobile. Your skills become portable.
Exactly. The source text says these words help you sound confident and natural. And that's the key. It's all about removing friction. When you know the word for colleague or presentation, you aren't mentally searching for it. You're not stuttering or pausing awkwardly.
You can focus on the work, not the word.
That's it exactly. And that is the moment when you start to feel like you belong, when the language becomes invisible and the ideas become visible.
Okay, so let's dive into the first section of this. The source calls it core office vocabulary, but I like your framing. Let's call it the cast of characters.
The people you're stuck in the elevator with every day.
Exactly. And the very first word on the list is colleague, or its close cousin, coworker.
Okay, let's pause here because this is a fascinating distinction that native speakers just take for granted. The source even provides the phonetic breakdown that je with Zerbailiva. It's a word that can physically trip people up if they're not used to it. The vowel sounds are a little tricky.
It does feel a bit clunky in the mouth, doesn't it? Compared to something simple like friend.
It does, but look at the usage examples that are provided in the text. My colleague helped me finish the report, and all my colleagues are very supportive.
So why do we use colleague? Why is that word so important? Why not just say my friend at work or the guy who sits next to me?
Boundaries. This is a massive psychological and social marker in the workplace. The word friend implies intimacy. It implies, I know about your life, your secrets, your weekend plans. It's personal.
Right.
Colleague, on the other hand, implies professional respect and a shared purpose, but it maintains a critical safety distance. It says we're on the same team, but we are at work. It protects you from oversharing, and frankly, it protects the company from things like nepotism or favoritism.
So in a way, the word colleague is a shield. It's a professional uniform you put on the relationship.
That's a perfect analogy. It professionalizes the relationship instantly. You can have a very supportive colleague without ever having to invite them to your wedding. It keeps things clean.
All right, so then we move up the hierarchy. The next set of characters, the boss, the manager, or the team leader.
The authority figures. The ones who sign your paycheck.
And the source gives us this little glimpse into the duality of authority here.
Yeah.
I want you to listen to these two examples provided. Example 1 is, my boss is very strict about deadlines.
Okay, I feel that. The pressure.
And then, example 2, the team leader gave me good feedback.
That is the entire modern employee experience summed up in 2 sentences, isn't it? The push and the pull.
It really covers the whole spectrum.
It does. On one hand, you have the word boss. It represents constraint, strictness, deadlines, pressure. It's a harder word. Boss. It sounds heavy. It has that old school industrial revolution energy, the overseer.
And team leader feels totally different.
Completely. Team leader implies a flatter hierarchy, collaboration. It represents growth, guidance, positive feedback. It feels very modern, very, knowledge economy. It's about coaching, not commanding.
It's interesting that the source includes all of them. It's almost like it's warning the learner, look, you are going to encounter all types of authority. Be prepared.
Absolutely. You have to be bilingual in authority. You need to know when you're dealing with a boss who just wants the report on their desk now, and when you're dealing with a team leader who wants to discuss your career growth over the next 5 years. Different words for different power dynamics.
Okay, so that brings us to the third category of person. This is the external stakeholder, the client or the customer.
The one who pays the bills. The entire reason the lights are on in the building.
And the source text drops a bit of a truth bomb here. It gives the classic example. The customer is always right.
The old idiom. Every business student learns that on day 1.
But then it adds, in parentheses, a little aside, but sometimes difficult.
I loved that detail. I actually laughed when I read that. It's so honest. It acknowledges the emotional labor of work. We have to say the customer is always right. That's the public script. But internally, the text is validating the learner's very real frustration. It's saying, yes, we know they're difficult. We know they're demanding. Here is the official word for them.
It's like a little wink to the reader. We get it.
It is. And the other example is, we have an important client meeting tomorrow. That sentence immediately raises the stakes. When the client is involved, everything just gets more serious, doesn't it?
The whole atmosphere changes.
The room tone changes completely. You speak differently to a colleague than you do to a client. This is what linguists call code switching. The source is subtly preparing the learner for that shift in register. You can complain to a colleague about the deadline. You must perform confidence for a client.
Okay, so moving on from the people, let's look at section 3 in the source. The tools and the ecosystem. We're talking about the actual hardware and, I guess, the software of the office.
The infrastructure of the workday, the things you interact with more than the people, probably.
Probably, yeah. And first up, the most essential tool, computer or laptop.
You cannot exist in the modern office without one. It is an extension of your body.
But look at the example sentence the source chose. It's not, the laptop is powerful, or I use a laptop for my work. The example is, my laptop is very slow today.
That has to be the most universal workplace complaint in human history.
It is. But why choose that specific sentence for a language learner? Why focus on the negative?
Because complaining is a bonding ritual. This is a deep sociological insight hiding in a vocabulary lesson. If you walk up to the coffee machine and say, "Ugh, my laptop is so slow today," everyone around you nods in sympathy.
Right, oh, mine too. The update bricked it.
Exactly. It creates a shared struggle against the inanimate object, against the machine. It humanizes you. Now, if you walk in and say, my laptop is perfect and I am working at 100% efficiency, nobody likes you. You sound like a robot. You're not part of the tribe.
That's so true. Shared misery builds office culture.
It's the glue. And the second example is, I need a new computer for work, which is also key. It's a request. It's asserting a professional need for better tools to do your job, which is a key skill. It's about advocating for yourself.
Okay, then we have the operating system of the modern world itself, email.
The primary communication channel, the endless flowing river of tasks and information.
The examples given are, I sent you the file by email, and check your email. The boss sent an update.
Notice how email is used here. It's not just a noun. It's a location, check your email. It's a transport mechanism by email. It's the connective tissue of the entire office. If you're not checking your email, you are not working. In a corporate sense, it's the proof of life.
It really is. And then the place where work, or sometimes just the illusion of work happens, the meeting.
And the example is the meeting was very productive, which is, let's be honest, the ideal outcome, though rarely the universal reality.
We've all been in meetings that could have been an email.
Absolutely. But learning to say the meeting was productive is a political skill. It shows you're a team player, that you value the time spent together.
What do we do in these meetings? We often do the next item on the list, presentation or slides.
This is the performance aspect of work, the spotlight moment.
The examples are, I'm preparing a presentation for the client, and can you check my slides?
And that second one, can you check my slides? That is so crucial. It shows vulnerability in a professional context. It's asking for peer review. It implies that work isn't done in a vacuum. You need that second pair of eyes to catch your typos.
It fits right back into that supportive colleague dynamic that we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. The vocabulary isn't isolated. It's a complete ecosystem. You use the laptop to make the slides for the presentation in the meeting with the client. You see how they all lock together. If you remove one of those words, the entire professional ecosystem collapses.
We have the people, we have the tools. Now we need to talk about the currency of the workplace. Section 4 in the source, time and tasks.
This is where the stress hormone, cortisol, really starts to kick in. This is where that 9:15 a.m. feeling stems from.
And it starts with the biggest stressor of all, the deadline.
A word that literally has the word dead in it. We should probably pay attention to that.
It does sound incredibly morbid when you stop and think about it.
The etymology is actually quite dark. I looked it up. It comes from the American Civil War. It was a literal line drawn in the dirt around a prison camp.
No way.
Yes. If a prisoner crossed that deadline, they were shot. No questions asked.
Wow. Okay, so that really reframes my anxiety about finishing a report.
Right. Now, obviously, in an office, nobody is getting shot if the report is an hour late. But the physiological response, the adrenaline, the fear, the tunnel vision, is surprisingly similar. Our bodies still react to deadlines as existential threats.
That explains a lot about my Sunday nights. The source gives us two classic examples. The deadline for the report is Friday, and I'm working late because of the tight deadline.
Tight deadline. That's a key collocation, a natural pairing of words that is essential for professional fluency. You don't just say the deadline is soon, you say, it's a tight deadline. It conveys urgency and pressure without you having to sound like you're panicking. It sounds objective and professional.
And what are we rushing to finish for this tight deadline? The report or the project?
The output. The tangible thing you create. This project is going to take 3 months. That example gives a sense of scale, of long-term planning.
But why do we do it all? Why do we suffer the tight deadlines and the slow laptops?
For the compensation, for the reward at the end of the cycle.
Which the source lists as salary or paycheck.
And the example sentence is, my salary is credited on the 1st. That might be the happiest, most straightforward sentence in the entire document.
But there's another form of currency mentioned here too. Time off. We have leave, sick leave, and annual leave.
I'm taking leave next week. It's interesting that in professional English, we often just say taking leave rather than going on vacation, especially when you're officially notifying your manager. It sounds more procedural. It frames your rest as a formal bureaucratic process.
It makes it sound official.
Right. And then you have the dark side of time, overtime.
The example is, I did overtime yesterday.
Which implies going above and beyond the contract. Or perhaps being overworked and having poor boundaries.
It's a double-edged sword.
It is. It signals dedication, but it also signals exhaustion. It's a very complicated badge to wear. In some office cultures, it's seen as heroic. In others, it's seen as a sign that you can't manage your time effectively during the workday.
Which brings us to the release valve for all this pressure, the break or lunch break.
Let's take a coffee break, the most important invitation of the day.
And the expert in the source text, Isha, she highlights this balance beautifully. You have tight deadlines on one side of the scale and taking a break on the other. It is the fundamental rhythm of the workday. Sprint, rest, sprint, rest.
If you only know the word work and you don't know the word break, you are going to burn out. It's that simple. You need the vocabulary of rest to survive in the ecosystem. You need to be able to say, I'm going to lunch, to set a boundary.
So we know the words now. We have the characters, the tools, the currency. But in an office, you can't just bark these words at people. You can't say, give me a report, fix laptop.
No, that is how you get fired, or at the very least, completely alienated from your colleagues. You need the social lubricant. You need politeness.
And that brings us to section 5, which is all about the art of professional politeness. Isha gives us some specific phrases to soften our requests.
This is absolutely critical. In many cultures around the world, directness is valued. It's seen as honest and efficient. But in many English-speaking professional environments, directness can often be perceived as rudeness or aggression.
So we hedge.
We wrap our demands in soft language. We use what linguists call modal verbs to create a polite distance.
The first one she lists is a classic. Could you please?
As in, could you please share the document? It instantly turns a command, share the document, into a request. It acknowledges the other person's agency. You aren't ordering them to do it. You are courteously inviting them to assist you.
Then we have a slightly more hesitant one, a more deferential one. Would you mind?
Would you mind checking my slides? This is fantastic because it explicitly acknowledges that you are asking for a favor. You are imposing on their time. Would you mind? Signals, I know you're busy, but this would be a huge help to me. It shows empathy.
And then she gives us the top-tier, high-level formality phrase. I would appreciate it if...
I would appreciate it if you could reply soon. Now, this one is a bit of a power move, honestly.
You think so? It sounds so nice. Appreciate is a lovely word.
It sounds nice, but it is incredibly firm. It sets a very clear expectation. It is not begging. It is stating a preference for professional conduct. It's the kind of thing you write in an email when someone is delaying you, and you need to keep a paper trail of your politeness before you escalate.
So it's the iron fist and the velvet glove.
It's the polite version of do this now. Corporate speak is a minefield.
It really is. It's a whole art form. You have to learn to read between the lines of what's being said.
Absolutely. The subtext is everything.
The source also talks about status updates. This is how you communicate your progress without inducing panic in your manager. This is the manager section.
Crucial survival skills for any employee.
So we have phrases like, I'm working on the presentation right now, I'll update you by email later, and I sent you the report yesterday.
These are fundamentally defensive phrases. They are shields to protect your time and your reputation. I'm working on it says, don't worry, I haven't forgotten. Please don't micromanage me.
And I sent it yesterday says.
Check your own inbox before you come over here and accuse me of not doing my job.
It's the polite professional version of per my last email.
It's subtle, but it's there. It's all about creating a paper trail of your own competence. You are proactively narrating your work so that it is visible to your superiors.
So we've got the vocab, we've got the politeness, we've got the tools. Now let's see how this all comes together. The source material provides these wonderful real-life scenarios. Let's walk through scenario A, the morning team chat.
Okay, let's simulate it. Let's see it in action.
It's the start of the day. A colleague comes up to you and asks, "Good morning. Did you see the boss's email?"
Immediate tension. That email is the catalyst for the day's action.
And you reply very calmly, "Yes, the meeting is at 11. I'm preparing the slides right now."
Perfect. You are confirming that you've received the information, and you're confirming you're already taking action. You're on top of it. You project calm and control.
Then the colleague, being a good supportive colleague, says, "Great. Need any help?"
There's that support system again. The network is activating.
And here's the pivot. You say, "Actually, could you please check the data table on slide 5?
Brilliant. Just brilliant. You used the polite form, could you please? And you delegated a very specific, manageable task. You didn't just say, do my work for me. You asked for a check. It's a request for collaboration, not a demand for labor.
And the colleague's response is, sure, send it over to me.
End scene. That whole exchange took maybe 20 seconds. But in that time, it confirmed status, it acknowledged the authority of the boss, it utilized peer support, and it moved the project forward. That is high-functioning office communication right there.
Let's look at scenario B. This one is a little tougher. This is the boss call.
Okay, the music shifts to something a bit more ominous here. The stakes are higher.
The boss calls you and says, "Hiya, man, can we discuss the project?"
And notice the language. The boss doesn't say, "Could you please?" The boss asks directly, "Can we discuss?" That is the hierarchy in action. It's subtle, but it's there.
And your reply is, "Yes, sir, I'm free now."
Immediate availability. You prioritize the boss. The sir adds a layer of formal respect.
Then you immediately manage your expectations. The report is almost ready. I'll send it by evening.
Proactive communication. You're anticipating the real question behind the call. You know they want the report, so you give them the timeline before they even have to ask. That projects confidence. You are controlling the narrative.
But the boss pushes back. Of course. Good. The client wants it by tomorrow.
Ah, there it is. The external pressure. The client card is played. The boss is transferring the pressure from the client down the chain to you.
And what's your response? Understood. I'll finish it today.
Clean. Simple. Commitment. You absorb the pressure, you confirm the new deadline, and you committed to the output. You didn't complain, you didn't make excuses, you didn't say, "But my laptop is so slow." You just said, "Understood." That is the language of reliability.
Finally, let's do scenario C. This is the lunch invitation.
The social lubricant. The brief moment of respite.
A colleague asked, "Hey, are you coming for lunch?"
A simple question, but in an office, the answer is rarely just a simple yes, is it?
Right. The answer to the text is, "I'll join in 10 minutes, just finishing this email."
And that's a masterclass in prioritization. It says, work comes first, but I also value your company and our social time. That little phrase, "just finishing this email," is the universal signal for, I am wrapping up. It shows that you're diligent.
But then the colleague pivots straight back to work, talk, even at lunch.
Yeah.
By the way, the boss asked about the presentation.
There is no escape. The office ecosystem permeates everything, even the break. You're never truly off.
You give a very specific quantitative update. I've completed 80%. I'll show it in the team meeting tomorrow.
80%. That is a specific metric. It sounds so much better than just saying, "I'm mostly done." It sounds calculated and managed. It makes you sound like you are actively tracking your own progress against a plan.
And it ends with, "Perfect. See you at the cafeteria."
And the cafeteria is the specific location of the break, another key vocabulary word.
So we have simulated the day. We have survived the morning chaos, the boss's call, and the working lunch. Now, how do we make all of this stick? The source material provides what it calls a golden cheat sheet.
This is the distillation. This is where Aisha brings it all home and categorizes it perfectly for the learner.
She breaks it down into people, colleague, team, boss, client.
The cast of characters we've been talking about.
Then tools, laptop, email, report.
The physical and digital equipment.
And time. Deadline, overtime, leave.
The currency of the workplace, how you spend your life.
And after the cheat sheet, there's the challenge, the homework. The source isn't letting us off easy. This isn't passive learning.
No, it's active learning. You can't just listen to this and absorb it. You have to do the work.
So task 1 is, write 10 to 12 sentences describing your own typical day at work.
This is so important. It forces you to visualize your own routine and map these new words directly onto it. It personalizes the vocabulary. It stops being an abstract list of words and starts being about your life, your boss, your deadlines.
Task 2 is the recording. You have to record yourself for 90 to 120 seconds, pretending you're talking to a friend about your job.
This is the scariest part for most people, isn't it? Speaking out loud, hearing your own voice. But the text is smart. It says to do it for 90 seconds. That's an elevator pitch. It builds that crucial muscle memory of actually saying colleague and deadline without stumbling. If you can't say it alone in your room, you will never be able to say it confidently in a meeting with 10 people staring at you.
That's a great point. And then task 3, real-world usage. You have to try and use 2 or 3 of these phrases in a real conversation today.
It could be anything, even if you just say to your partner, "Hey, I sent you an email about dinner," or "Let's schedule a meeting to decide on our weekend plans." It breaks that barrier between learning and using. It lowers the stakes and makes the language feel normal.
And finally, the social proof element. Share a sentence in the comments section using one of the new words.
And that social proof is key for motivation. Seeing other people doing it makes you feel like, okay, I'm part of a group, I can do this too. It reinforces that sense of belonging that we talked about right at the very start.
The source also mentions that we are at a midpoint here in the journey. Day 27, the very next day, is the mid-journey review and mega quiz.
So this deep dive into office English, it's the final push of new material before a major consolidation phase. It's like climbing to the peak of the mountain before you stop to take a breath and look at the view. It's a critical moment.
It really feels like that. And, going back to that belonging takeaway that the source is so focused on.
Yeah, let's unpack that a little deeper. I think it's the most important part of this whole lesson.
Jay's and Aisha close by saying, it's about sounding like you belong. And then this line, every time you say, let's schedule a meeting, you step into a more confident version of yourself.
That is so profound. We often think of language as something that just describes reality. I am holding a cup. But in the professional world, language creates reality. When you say, I will update you by email by 5 p.m., you are creating a future action. You are creating a promise. You are creating reliability out of thin air.
You are literally constructing your professional identity sentence by sentence.
That's it. You aren't just a person sitting at a desk anymore. You are a colleague. You are a reliable team member. You are a professional.
You're adopting a persona that is capable, organized, and polite.
Exactly. And the fascinating thing is, eventually the mask becomes the face. You actually become that more organized, more capable person because you now have the language to structure your thoughts and your day in that way.
That is fascinating. So the language actually structures the thought process itself. If I have a word for deadline, I can better understand and manage urgency. If I have a phrase like, could you please, I am programming myself to think about cooperation.
Precisely. It shapes your cognitive landscape. It gives you the mental tools to compartmentalize the stress. It allows you to think like a professional, not just speak like one.
The source material makes a point of saying that very few people actually make it this far, to day 26.
That consistency drop-off. It's real. Life gets in the way.
So if you are listening to this and you are actually applying these lessons, you are already in the top percentile of learners. You've pushed through the hard part.
You are. You showed up. And that's half the battle.
So here's a thought I want to leave you with. We've talked a lot about how these words make you look to other people. Professional, competent, like you belong. But I want to flip that around.
Go on.
If language is the tool that allows you to navigate the complex world of the office, how does mastering these specific phrases change not just how other people see you, but how you see your own competence?
That is the question, isn't it? The internal shift.
Does saying, I have a tight deadline, out loud make you feel more important, more central to the mission? Does saying, my colleague and I are collaborating on this project, make you feel less alone in your work, more part of a team?
I think it has to. I really believe it does. I think it validates your labor. It gives a kind of dignity to the daily grind. It makes you feel like you're a part of the engine, not just a cog being turned by it.
It gives dignity to the grind. I love that phrasing.
It frames your stress not as bad things happening to me, but as professional challenges that I am overcoming. It gives you agency.
Agency. That is what we are all looking for, isn't it? At work and in life.
It is. The feeling that you are in control of your own story.
Well, whether you are in a high-rise, a home office, or listening to this on your commute, remember, the words you choose create the world you work in. You belong.
You belong.
Thanks for deep diving with us today. Get those slides done, watch those deadlines, and we will catch you in the next briefing.